There they are. How's it going, you guys?
Good. How are
Hi,
you?
thanks for having
Hi.
us.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're super excited to have you guys on today. Really excited to hear what you guys have to share. And yeah, I guess without further ado, I'll let you guys take it from here and I'll disappear and I'll jump back on at the very end. But yeah, excited for what you guys got to share with us.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Of
So I'm
course.
Jason. This is Damaris, Nieznajko. We had the idea in 2022 to follow through on the plan to build our own tiny house. And we had a lot of questions in the beginning, such as how we're going to finance it, where we're going to build it, and where we're going to live in it. And those questions started to be not so abstract after a little while. So we had to make plans to move from Massachusetts to Florida. And we're currently in Central Florida now, and that's where we've been building our tiny house. And as you can see behind us, we are still in the building process, but we are dried in and we're starting to cover the walls. So we were going to go through and start sharing so a few slides that detail our journey so far.
Let's see.
Hi, Dan. This is Kay. Was you trying to call me? I'm doing good.
1 second, guys. Hey, Kay, you're not on mute. There we go.
Okay,
Yeah,
we
we got
got
it.
it.
Yep, we're good. Okay, yeah, so this is the outside of our tiny house now. We call it Little Bitty from the country song, that it's okay to be little bitty. And it's 28-foot trailer, three axle. Each axle can support 7,000 pounds. So that means that it can handle 21,000 pounds of a load on it. That's where we started, was with talking.
It's a notification to get on Zoom, so here we are.
We started off by needing a plan, set of plans of what we were going to do. Thank you very much, Deborah. We got the idea, the general inspiration from a company out in California that built their own tiny home and live in it currently also. And their tiny house is called Tiny Mika. Their company is called Tiny Homies. Shar and Tony Perez, Tinyhomiez. And so we got a set of plans from them. We'll talk about adaptations we made to those plans, though. And this is us in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, picking up our trailer. So we got a lot of good counsel from Tiny Homies on what we want to look for in a trailer. We did our own research and we decided that it was most beneficial to go from even living in Florida to having a company in Pennsylvania build it for us, when we realized that we had a list of specs that we wanted to be built, and they knew what they were talking about. They build tiny house trailers for other companies that build them commercially. I don't know their names offhand, but up in Pennsylvania, excellent company to work with, and we were really impressed by all the details. What would you say about that experience of going up to Pennsylvania from Florida to go pick up our
Yeah,
tiny house trailer?
it was kind of crazy. We had family emergencies happening at the time, but Jason's dad was like, "Go up before it starts snowing." Then it was we had gotten our truck ready to go because it was able to handle the weight of an empty trailer, not a trailer with a house that could be 21K pounds. So we up north, as it got cooler, we realized our heater didn't work in the truck. So we stopped at like Ross and picked up some blankets and a DC adapter heater and
AutoZone and picked up.
tried to heat ourselves up while we got but we did it. We came back, and once we got back, we're in Central Florida. So we had friends. As we were saying in our bio, when you're looking for building a tiny house to do DIY, of course, you need to know where you're going to build it. You need to know where you're going to live in it, and you need to know how you're going to pay for it. And one of the side notes on the cost of this trailer in particular, as is kind of average for tiny home trailer prices. It was $10,000. So a pretty pricey, you know, foundation, but we're pretty happy with how it's turning out and feeling like it's gonna support our home pretty well.
For sure, yeah, we opted for drop axles, and if you notice the square fenders as well. We thought at the time that this was going to be the way to go. If you notice that there's flashing underneath the trailer, which is a really good plus. We thought we were going to insulate those cavities in the bays there, and we'll talk about what we ended up doing instead briefly. But we didn't go that way. However, the flashing underneath the trailer is a big plus. If you're gonna get a trailer built for you or find a trailer, having somebody put that flashing on for you is really a lifesaver, actually, because it'll protect the whole underbody from things that you have going on in the subfloor and gives a lot of peace of mind.
And as we go throughout at the end, we do have a list of some of our inspiration or recommendations on why we even ended up changing our build plans throughout, because Tiny Homies Mika plans are absolutely gorgeous, and that was the house we wanted. But we did decide to change it. But in the meantime, just some fun pictures here is in the property out here in Central Florida. We got friends that let us build on their property, knowing it was going to be a bit extensive. They said, hey, you could build an outhouse. So that's what we did. We dug here.
Instead of renting a porta potty, we decided to follow through on their advice. We're far enough away from a well. They have a well here on the property, but we're many
yards away.
Hundreds of yards away from a water source. So they said, yeah, go ahead and dig a hole and then use hydrated lime over it. It'll break it down and all of that good
We've
stuff.
never built anything before. We're window cleaners. Jason has had concrete pumping experience, but that's not the same as framing anything. So
No.
we had no framing experience, and we did have some knowledge of tools because my dad's a cabinet builder, installer, and Jason working with construction a little bit, but not with framing. And so this was fun. It was we figured if we can keep an outhouse standing, then maybe we can keep our tiny house standing too.
We got a question here. How deep is the pit for the toilet? I would say we dug down, if I remember correctly, about 5 feet. I was down in the hole,
right?
and my head was still sticking out of the hole. I remember that much. So
I should have put that picture instead.
yeah. Yeah, we did put some reinforcement in there and you use some blocks so it doesn't cave in.
And our friends we said, oh, you could do whatever you need to do once we move, because we're going to be moving to a different part of their property. And they're like, no, we're going to keep it here. They got some workers and things, and we've been using it, and it's been great. Even though our little bitty doesn't have composting toilet, it's going to be a flushing toilet because we are going to be connected to a septic, but we're happy to have this little experience with the outhouse. And we had a fun story with getting our trailer. Once we did decide to change our plans, it was because we wanted a subfloor, and we decided that we didn't want a loft anymore. We decided to go with a higher, thicker subfloor where we could have more insulation to avoid the thermal bridge that happens between the wood and the metal. Thanks to Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast, shout out to them, and the Tiny House Summit. We got word of Isabel Nagel Bryce from A Tiny Good Thing. She's not doing that anymore, but her podcasts and her sites maybe should still be up. And that was like a lifesaver on time for us, because we really wanted to avoid mold at any cost, being in Central Florida, knowing growing up with houses that have had mold remediation and things like that after hurricanes. So that was a really important, even though it hiked up our budget exponentially.
Yes, the goal was to mitigate mold. We're in Central Florida. It's a lot of humidity here and a lot of allergens, and we wanted to do everything we could from the very beginning to make sure that we don't have mold issues going forward. So we were trying to educate ourselves on how to do that. And so what's been recommended is to implement many different proactive ways to get humidity out of your space, to bring fresh air in, and to have temperature control. So what you see in the picture is really an effort to get the house ready for the subfloor with the bolts being welded on, but that's also just for the structural integrity of the whole building. We added a bunch of extra bolts. I think we used 5/8. There was some 1/2 inch bolts all throughout that the company had already welded onto the trailer. We added, once we had a framing plan put together, we added 5/8 bolts that were going to penetrate through the subfloor and still stick up far enough for those massive
go bolts.
anchors. Yeah, go bolts that would
Okay.
end up going all the way up to
The roof.
the roof and tying into the top
The
plate.
trusses.
So we have a lot of, what's already been mentioned here on the show is Noah, and Noah's was a big help in knowing how far apart to spread out these bolts and anchoring systems. So we do have them 12 inches off of each corner, every 6 feet at least. So in total, we have 16 all thread rods running from the subfloor all the way to the ceiling.
Yeah, so even some of like our parents that are pretty skeptical about tiny houses came in here and said, I think I could stay in here during a hurricane. It feels pretty sturdy. So we're pretty proud of that. The ability to feel pretty comfortable in our house. Even though if we got like a Cat 5 or something, we're leaving
We're not
Central
staying.
Florida. But another thing to mention, so here we got a little bit of a picture of what was suggested to us. We did get these high performance building materials. It's just a little slow loading from where we're sharing our screen right there. But we did insulate the fenders of our trailer. We got blocks up
inches
there,
total of
2
foam.
inches of foam. And then we used what's called Solatex Mento, which is a German passive house design product that was recommended through Isabel. And as Jason mentioned, Noah is awesome for building safety, and these building supplies were great for building science, just to avoid mold and to make the airflow right, make your home watertight and airtight and all of those things. So that's what we did. It was quite a project getting down under those the metal cavities into the 4x4.
Yeah, so you could see here that the cross members on the trailer in each bay, they run, you could say, horizontal, but we had to run the subfloor all perpendicular to those. So in order for that to work out, we had to pre-drill holes into the metal and screw up underneath the house wrap, which is the Mento that you see, the gray house wrap there, and then through the subfloor wood. So that was a project, figuring out how to go about doing that and keeping it taped and how much you work with at a time. But after a while, we got the hang of it, and until we got past the fenders, and then we realized that we needed to start roughing into plumbing. That's one thing about being DIYers that you have to realize after a while you have to think many steps ahead. And so that was
They're just one step.
something from the
Yeah.
beginning that we learned, was you need to be planning many steps ahead because you have multiple things going on at once.
Yeah, so here's a little video clip. I don't know if it'll play, but just kind of showing what we did. And that's our dog Bessie. She's definitely been helpful in the build, keeping us entertained.
We used Advantech on the subfloor. It's been a very good weather durable wood for building. We used pressure treated wood for the subfloor underneath it. And then we also had to drill some holes, as you could see, use a hole saw to go through some of that plumbing on the left-hand picture. And plumbing was definitely not our strong point. It was probably something that has taken us the longest to get through, but we did pass our plumbing inspection recently, so we're moving forward with
We're
the rest of
on
our build.
final is the next
We're heading
one.
toward
So
final, so we'll talk more about plumbing in a few minutes because that is definitely a story in itself. But with what you see Damaris doing it in the middle picture, she's chiseling out a hole to clean up an area for washers and bolts that went over the subfloor to tie that in. And then that was level with the subfloor. Then the 3/4 inch Advantech went over top of that. And then we had still those 16 areas where bolts were sticking out of the sub out of the floor. So that's what we tied in the framing walls to. Getting back to now, framing was the next phase of construction. It's hard to see in the picture, but underneath that, there's a door. On the left, there's a window above it. Then you go to the right and there's a big window. Underneath that is a header. But one of the lessons we learned was making the headers over the fenders not rest on the fenders themselves. So they're not tied into the fenders. They're actually sitting on multiple blocks on either side of the fender and raised just slightly above it. So the full weight of the wall, as you can see in the picture on the right there, is that header going along the bottom is actually sitting on blocks on either side of the fender. So that's something good to keep in mind that we learned as well in considering framing to preserve the integrity of the trailer.
and here in the picture, you can see we got hurricane anchors. So to keep the in between the double top plate there and the stud. And we did go 16 on center. We kind of went a bit overboard with extra studs when framing out, and our 3 triple axle trailer is going to be okay with that. But you can see the go bolt a little bit on the left. There's like right where, how would you explain
There's a white plumbing pipe coming up out of the ground on the picture on the right, and right to the right of that, before the stud that runs diagonal in between those two, that's where one of the go bolts comes up.
And then we have another strapping that we used, metal strapping.
Yeah, so we use 16 gauge metal studs running at a 45-degree angle in order to prevent racking. If it was riding down the road, we wanted to have something to handle the headwinds that would be coming back into the front of the trailer.
So just some other pictures of our build here.
Started putting windows in. We
You
got
can
the
see
house
that.
wrap finished up and the windows. We did the flashing around those.
So one of the things the reasons why we had to start with the subfloor, putting that underneath the 4x4s for our subfloor is because that's what's wrapping the whole house as an envelope. So we had to go and bring that up around the walls. And then once we started wrapping the house wrap. And one of the things that is a little funny thing, when we also watched Andrew Morrison's, one of his tiny house building workshops, and he says that every time you're going to wrap the house is when it's a windy day.
Mhm.
And sure enough, it was a windy day, and we're trying to wrap the house wrap, but everything takes 3 times longer than you think it will.
We started really building on this house. We went and got the trailer like we saw in October 22.
13 months ago,
We started
in February of 23.
really in February of 23 because we had a couple family tragedies that we actually brought us down to Florida in the first place from Massachusetts. So we were busy with family and trying to support them. So then we really got going.
And replanning the house build.
We also had to
One November was when we found out about the all the moisture prevention. So from November to February, we redrew all the plans. The plans that we bought didn't come with framing plans. So Jason drew up all the framing plans himself, and that's how we got all of this up here. So just a little bit. These were supposed to be kind of videos, but for some reason they're not playing here on Keynote. But that's just a little picture of what putting in the door, and then finally once
We
we got
ended
our
up
door.
using cedar around the windows and doors as trim. And that's it pretty much there with the house wrap. Now up top at that point, if we go back, yep. We're gonna go look at this picture again. And at this point, the roof is on. We're gonna talk about the roof in a moment, but there is a blue strip up top, and that's part of the Adhero, which is a peel and stick. That's also a breathable membrane. So it allows moisture to escape, but does not let any allows humidity to escape, but does not allow any moisture to penetrate it. So that's what's going over our plywood
That's
sheeting.
actually, also there was a video here showing that going up, but this is what the
There you go.
Adhero looks like.
Yeah, so here's a picture coming up here shortly of the Adhero and what that looked like before we put the metal on the roof.
We have the Adhero, and then we had the layer of, because our roof is not vented. So what we did was, instead of venting the roof, we, oh, good question. What type of tools did you use for framing? Definitely a pneumatic nail gun.
We invested in that, yeah, and one 21-degree nailer. You can see that in the picture there on the right. That was a lifesaver. Good quality compressor, which our friend is letting us borrow. So we had to buy an extra air hose for that.
I think it was 160 or 170 bucks for this Metabo pneumatic nail gun. And throughout our research, everybody's like, rent or borrow the nail gun because you only need it for a few days. Well, that was not realistic in our case. We needed it for a long period of time. This build has taken us way longer than we planned. So I would recommend buying a pneumatic nail gun for sure and investing in it. And then you can resell it later. But it's unless
Even
you're
used it the other day
framer.
inside. So you never know when you're gonna use it. Now we haven't been using it as much, but you get yourself good tool bag, and hammer, crowbars are necessary. One thing that was very interesting is when the walls went up, and we framed it out in 8 panels. So we have a 28-foot trailer. So we had 3 sections on the sides and one in the front and one in the back. So when we had friends come over to help us raise the walls and get it all in place, then the time came for us to put the trusses up. So we had to custom make each truss. We used 2x6s, and once we had one built and in place and up against the ridge beam, then we said, okay, this is going to work. Well, we started getting the trusses in place, and we realized that some of the walls were a little out of square, yeah. But that wasn't really an issue. I mean, they were sitting nice and square on the bottom plate, and that's just when you're going up 10 feet, it's going to happen. So we used ratchet straps up top, and we ran them from one side to the other side, and we ratcheted in a few spots portions of the wall to bring it together, because all of the trusses were uniform, and once it started getting even on both sides, we nailed it off, and then the nails and everything held it in place. So we have a very, as you can see in this roof, a 1/12 pitch, which was the design that we ended up going with. So almost flat, you could say 4.5-degree pitch technically. Going down the center, we have no penetrations or going through, like no plumbing piping going through, and we really try to max out. I think from the ground to the top we're at 13.4, so we can still take this up on the road but it's pretty close because we wanted to maximize our interior space.
There was one thing I wanted to mention is a lot of times we're doing research on like every single thing to do because we've never built a house before, right? DIYers first time. And one of the things is, what is a rain screen and how do you do it? So we got furring strips. We had that, all of our extra, some of our extra ply that we had from doing the subfloor, we cut it down to about 2-inch slats, and we put those across the house. And this screen is actually a bug screen, and you can see in the picture how it's attached, so that way once that we won't have to worry about any bugs going in through the metal, like into our house. So putting on this Solatex, then we used a rain screen before we put the metal on, so everything was a much longer process than we thought it would be, with just putting up walls and put up your siding and you're done.
Yeah, the rain screen though is good. We used the Advantech for that, the leftover wood from the floor. We didn't really have to buy extra material. We just ripped into skinny 2-inch strips, except for these ones on the corners are 4-inch strips. And here's a picture of what the rain screen looked like before, and we'll get back to the roof in a second.
We don't need to go there because the video doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
So if it works, it was just a little dramatic video of once we started
So that
carpeting.
was the rain screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The up and down the vertical portions of the rain screen we ended up adding a lot more actually to that before we put the cedar design in, the cedar feature. But everything that is running horizontal is where the metal was attached to. So we were able to pre-drill holes in the metal and then screw off, and it landed right on where those strips were.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go back to
Any
the roof?
questions?
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions about what windows we use, we did use tempered glass, and our doors were hurricane impact, and that was OfferUp, Craigslist, as much as we could, and what we couldn't, and we had to buy new. This was a video of a day that we were planning on putting the metal siding on the roof, and it was a Florida downpour on us, and we were really worried about our rock wool insulation up top. So it was a dramatic day because it was a 7% chance of rain that day. So the joys of tiny house building. And our only walls in our house on the inside are just for the bathroom. A lot of tiny houses have the bathroom on either side of either
Either the
end,
front or the back.
but ours is next to the kitchen. But our floor plan, it was really important to us to have our own main floor bedroom on one end, and then have guests stay in the living room with the sleeper sofa on the opposite end. So when we do have company, they can use the bathroom and not be
Walk
in
through
our way, and we can use the bathroom and not be in their way. And then we have a pocket door wall that we built here leading to the bathroom. So all of that's connected. And then we decided instead of a sleeping loft, that it's more like a storage loft because it's pretty low, and we have all of our plumbing and our venting and everything up there, kind of
Everything above.
away.
Yep. Above the bathrooms, all the mechanicals there.
And then we did get some pretty nice 26 gauge prestige rib metal siding, and that's what we used for the roof as well as for the siding of the house. And just had the basic clippers to try to cut it, and a nice attachment to the drill for.
Right, yeah, there's an attachment that goes right in the front of the drill that you can hold with one hand. It's like electric shears. So that was a big cool
That was a big help
that we received, from YouTube. So that was a great way to
University for all of it. Yeah. And then just wiring some electric up in the fun, comfy storage loft. Not so comfy. Our family helped out a lot. My stepdad did our electrical wiring, and
friends of ours
really helped us with Put walls
Electricians,
and-
yep, helped us know everything that we needed. That's probably between plumbing and electrical is our weak, greatest weaknesses there. So we just worked with what help and consultation we could and tried to implement what they told us to the best of our ability. And we called them back. And when we got it wrong, we called them back again and redid it. But everything's been fine.
Yeah, thankfully. The electrical inspection went through, no problem. With NOAA, it's great. Like they mentioned, it's a special software that NOAA uses where it's a video conference and they take pictures of what you're showing them and they make sure everything looks good and move on. One of the things that we did as we booked our inspection for our plumbing because we thought it was going to work, then we canceled it when we didn't pass our pressure test. And then looking on YouTube, how do you do a plumbing pressure test? How do you do a hydrostatic test? So we will be certified as NOAA. I think it's great to get help from knowledgeable family and friends on a project like this. My family's useless. Sorry, Lizzie. I don't know where you are, but if you needed help, we could try to help you. So it's going to be NOAA certified. It's
As a movable tiny home
Movable
is
tiny
a new expression to use. So they have changed their approach, and you can actually tell them to what building standards you want to use. But when we first signed up in 22, I think it was a Black Friday deal
Yeah,
we got in 22, and we're still using it. They've been wonderful with consultations and everything, but they have changed their approach. And now
there's NOAA Plus standards, and then there's more. Well, all those questions will be great for NOAA when they come on.
yeah, we'll let them discuss
answer
that.
But we do recommend, it was one thing that in the tiny house world back in 22, they were, I guess, frowning upon some certifications, and if you already know how to build, you don't have to be built to these standards. But for us, it was mind like security for knowing that we're doing it right, because we had no idea. And so it was one price, and everything, the consultations and any questions we had, we could ask them.
Yeah,
we
from
could
what
book
we
free
understood,
consultations too.
we went with NOAA because that was not RVIA. So RVIA was to get certified as a park model RV. And so we decided not to pursue that route, but to instead go with NOAA, which builds according to the international building codes.
Yeah, kind of a mix. They do ANSI and
A hybrid, yeah.
a hybrid, yeah.
So when they're called, National Organization of Alternative Housing, we also feel the same way. We wanted to be more considered a house than an RV, especially the way that we're approaching it.
And where we're at here is our rock wool insulation. Anyone that does in the ceiling knows it's a nightmare. So masked up, long sleeves, headband, bandana, all that stuff, and it still gets all over you and is itchy. So
we used R15 in the walls. We also have R15 in the ceiling, except for we did it 1.5 times. We cut off a half layer and added it. So that's because we couldn't find any R23 in our area. So what we have going on in our 2x6 stud bays that are 24 inches on center for the ceiling is what works out to be R22.5. We have an R6 comfort board on the outside, which is also a rock wool product that's underneath the metal paneling of the roof, which was in some previous pictures. And part of the reason for putting the exterior insulation on as well is because, like we talked about before, there's no venting, there's no crawl space, there's no air up in the ceiling in between the bays. And so by approaching exterior and interior insulation, we understood that helps to mitigate extreme temperature fluctuations, which again is another thing that cuts back on moisture buildup. So that's the reason why we went with that approach.
And then also speaking with Isabel, at a tiny good thing. We got a consultation package with her, which she's not doing that now, but she did recommend that for the cedar siding, we use Osmo as like either a stain
OSMO,
or
yeah, that's
OSMO, and that's like a Danish oil, I think, or
Mm.
it's amazing. And we're, it's probably something we'll do once a year, once every year and a half or two.
Give it a
Give
light
it
sand
another
and then-
another coat, and it's been like, it's beautiful stuff.
Well,
We
I
got
don't
the
think you
clear
have to
coat.
sand it.
No,
You just have to
just
clean it.
recoat.
Make sure it's clean though.
And that was really fun. And so here's a picture of what not to do with plumbing under the trailer. Our plumbing nightmare.
So this is me with no plumbing experience saying, oh, we need to connect all these pipes together. And as long as the fall is right, 1/4 inch per foot and everything, then it'll all flow out. And there's a trunk and there's some branches. But in the end, right before inspection, even up to about 5 weeks ago, I was unsettled about it because you can see it's too low to the ground. Where I was just so worried that once we start getting it on the road or anything, even moving it from one end of this property to the other, it's just going to snag on something and then we'll have to tear up the subfloor and everything. So we have a friend that used to be a plumber in Russia, and so he came over here a few months ago and he decided that he'd be able to help us out. So we just took it all apart and redid it. So I think the key words for plumbing under your trailer, if you're going to do under the trailer and not in your subfloor, is high and tight. Just go into it with that mentality that everything should be high and tight there, and this is what we have now. So it's a lot of the same design, nothing really design wise changed. It's just closer up underneath, and still everything is falling correctly and everything's strapped off. This is what we're doing now, putting a membrane up called Intello Plus before we're putting walls. So for the wall covering, we're going to use sanded birch, which we have 1/2 inch, and we're going to use 1/4 inch sanded birch on the ceiling panels. That the Intello Plus, why don't you share?
It's like an extra membrane that's for this insulation, and also helps to keep the home.
Prevents drafts.
It prevents drafts. It helps also keep it more watertight, moisture tight, keep the airtight, keeps the moisture out of the house. And so it's vapor open, just like the Solitex is. So any moisture that's in the house will be able to leave. And just, yeah, another protection for our home here. One of the questions we see Katerina has, how high is your loft? Our storage loft, it's looking at about 30 inches, but we had to cover up the bottom 8 inches because of our pipes. So usable space, we have about 18,
20 inches
20
up there.
inches up there.
But it's going to stay mostly open to get the AC from the back of the home to the front, the tongue side, which is where our bedroom is. When we got the plans from Tiny Homies, they have a sleeping loft above the bathroom on one end of the trailer, and I think it's on the back end of the trailer. But we decided to modify, and Damaris already talked about the reasons why, so guests could access the bathroom and everything, but also because when we consulted with Isabel, not having so much weight on the back of the trailer is the best thing. Front loading the weight and getting everything in the front 2/3 weight wise to the best of your ability is really beneficial for riding on the road and for the life of the trailer. That's the way that trailers are designed to support weight. So that was a factor, and also in discussing
We have
with
ceiling fans too. We're in Florida, so we need all of the cool air as much as possible.
yeah, we have a bathroom fan that's situated near where the shower is going to be, so that's like the area of steam is going to be getting out. We have a kitchen fan to also bring any steam from pots on the stove
And
out.
that's on a moisture humidity sensor.
The one that's in the bathroom one is on a humidity sensor. We have an ERV, which is an energy recovery vent to bring take the stale air out of the house and bring fresh air in. And then putting that subfloor in order to add more insulation and to create that thermal break, reduced a little bit of the interior height. So we said no sleeping loft then if our interior height is reduced.
He's
So
6 feet tall, so that wasn't.
I just didn't want to feel claustrophobic at
Not
night.
gonna-
So we decided to, in the front of the trailer, you notice like two front doors on the design there. The front of the trailer, the tongue side, that's the door going into the bedroom. So we're just gonna have a full-size bed and cabinets, closets, and it'll be just function for the most part. Storage bed where the bed can go up on hydraulic arms.
So here's some of our recommendations. Like we mentioned, tiny homies, they're great. And then they had Steph and Micah, I think, are on YouTube, and they bought their plans too. Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast, Ethan Waldman, like 100% 5 stars to
Still
him.
listening to him, yeah.
Still like binge listen to those podcasts. And the Tiny House Summit that he hosted in November of 22, that's where we found out about A Tiny Good Thing, and 475 Supplies, that's where we can get any of these, like Intel
Passive
Plus,
design
the German, the
product.
high performance
Yeah.
materials.
Mhm.
The NOAA certification, we mentioned Andrew Morrison's book and workshop, The Idiot's Guide to Tiny House Designing, Building, and Living. And Metal Roof Factory in Rockledge, Florida. They've been great customer service. Dropped off our metal siding and everything, and answered any of our questions that we had. And then also in the trailer shop. So thank you for letting us be a part of this event. It's pretty exciting. Our first time doing anything like this. So
We're
hopefully
hoping
we
to finish
didn't.
by next month. That would
bore
be
you.
our goal.
Yeah.
We keep saying that.
We
Every
saying
time
next
someone
month.
says, "When are you going to finish?" We say next month, and that's
Our
still
least,
mean it.
our least favorite question though is, when are you going to move in? And the answer is when we finish,
When we-
because we're the ones doing it. So thank you. And any questions that you have, you're welcome to ask them. And
Thank you
if
very
you'd
much.
like, we can give you a little tour, a video tour now. Also, just let us know if that's something that you want, because I think Tiny House said that we had some time. Yes to a tour. Okay. So we'll stop sharing. And I can start the video here
Mm-hmm.
and disconnect to the audio here. Okay.
Recording in progress. Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
Since
We'll
we're
do this
logged
with the
on.
computer. Okay, so right now we're standing in. And that's. So we ended up building a chase there for the water pipes. We have a propane water heater that eventually will be hooked up, but that's on the front. And so this chase here runs so you can have the water pipes going out, right? Then the other chase above it is for the wires. So instead of drilling a large number of holes in the studs, although that's perfectly acceptable, we did have to in some areas. We decided to build out some furring strips and have the wires running up there. We're gonna end up having a faux beam that's going to come off of that area. So there's not going to be wood tight up against those wires. So there'll be room to breathe. And we did some draft blocking right behind those wires, which is where you just take the insulation and stuff it really tight into there, like a double stuffed Oreo, as Damaris likes to say, to keep any any wind from traveling through that area. Okay, so here's our pocket door for the bathroom.
I'm trying to log in through the phone so that
And what we have so far for the bathroom is place for the toilet and the sink vanity here. This will be for a barn door on the other side. This is a vent stack pipe. And also for the hood vent for the kitchen, which is on the other side of that wall. Right here, we have that bathroom fan that's right next to the shower area. So we have this here. And we're going to use the standing tub in the drainage there. So then we move out of the bathroom. And this is our window. And the other side of the loft, storage loft there. We'll have a 2-burner stove.
Okay, I think we got this switched back to the phone for
Okay.
better video.
Yeah, very good. How do we? There we go. All right, so just on the other side of the ladder will be the stove, and just to see, we have the outlet there for the stove. Switch for the fan. And these windows that are up here don't open. So all the windows up top are fixed. And that was important for, I mean, you can do whatever you would like, but especially in the back here, that's a fixed window. Right next to it is where the plumbing ventilation goes out the side of the house. So being that that ventilation pipe runs right on the outside, and that window doesn't open, fine, because you're not posing a threat to yourself with any noxious gases coming through there, toxic gases. Right, and this area is where the vent is going to be for the washer and dryer, a stackable washer and dryer. There's a drain for it. This is one area where we're going to use a Studer vent. We have to cut this area out here. And this area is a base for the washer and dryer to sit on. It also houses our whole house water filtration system, which is a two-stage system. And we needed to have access to it to change it every 6 months. So that's the reason why we ended up putting it here in this area. We're going to have our fridge next to that, a pantry that has some storage, also an oven and coffee maker.
Yes,
And very important.
espresso maker.
This is the ERV. And we'll put a closet in front of that as well. This is a window. We'll have a couch. There's our mini split system, an area for a TV, another door. And this area will be the bathroom, cabinets, shelves, and place for eating, sitting once that's completed, and some more cabinets up there. So we have a question. What water filter system are you using?
Water drop.
Yeah, water drop. Here it is. So it's a 2-stage whole house water filtration system.
In the ERV? Trying to remember.
Was it Panasonic?
Yes. Yeah, that's Panasonic. Have the cover. That's the one.
For the ERV.
And we're on a farm, So we got goats. We had 2 baby goats. A baby goat born just the day before yesterday. So I'll give you a little tour of the outside and then we'll sign off. This is where we're having our lunch. Okay, here we go. Our air conditioner. And we got lights on all these sides here. And each side of the house has motion sensor lights. And then this is our propane water heater, Pagani, on demand, tankless water heater. We would have loved a precision temp, but it wasn't in our budget. Thanks to Precision Temp for their great presentation. This is our spot for our propane tanks for the water heater. And this was something really cool that we got online, our lock for the trailer itself to prevent theft, because that was something really scary, is if buy your trailer and get someone, you finish your house and someone drives off with it. And that's Betsy the donkey saying hi. So proven locks, definitely recommend it. Like almost impossible to get in, and you can't hitch to our trailer and drive away with it. So, well, thank you everyone for your questions. Thanks for listening. I think there were, oh, the mini split, you asked that, and thanks, Tiny House. All right.
Thank The mini split that we're using is a Della brand,
For
1200,
12,000 BT.
12,000 BTU. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a process. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. That was such a cool getting to see your tour and just the whole process of it. And I love that you guys are like literally in the thick of building it right now. You guys know like the ins and outs. You guys are like feeling the pain of the build, but also the joy and the fun of getting to design and build it like that. And it's really cool that you guys are actually kind of like taking your own unique design on it as well. You guys started with those plans, but then you're kind of seeing what works better and like what's going to work really well and adapt to your guys' lifestyle, and you guys are making that happen. So that's really cool to see that you guys are doing that. Yeah. What would you guys say the hardest part of building your
Thank you.
tiny house has been?
Um,
Dealing with how long it's taking.
yeah, having realistic expectations of, when you run into problems and you still have to work. We were also for a long time doing some volunteer work from home, where we were helping some Russian speaking refugees coming in to the country. So that was through the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. We were trying to do some remote work doing like that. So just the demands on your time, you're trying to pay some bills, I was doing some concrete, I'm still doing some concrete work part-time, and just juggling everything. And like we were talking about earlier, being there for your family. That's the reason why we even live in Florida again. We were up in Massachusetts before. The hardest part,
And plumbing has set us back 5 weeks.
the hardest part of the build has been the plumbing. We're just very happy that nothing is leaking right now, and the supply lines are good, the drainage lines are good, and we're able to move forward. I mean, just super happy with that. The electrical is way above my pay grade, so we deferred to others and are very happy with how that's turned out. Everything seems very safe. Noah was very happy with it. They said that it looked like a professional job. So that's all due to help from others, really. I mean, we did not know how to do that stuff ourselves, or even pretend to know that we knew it. So the framing part was really fun. The metal siding is very interesting, as a nice process that goes up real quick. That's pretty fun when you start seeing a lot of progress being made in a shorter period of time. And
The
then,
peel and stick was harder than we thought,
yeah,
but it wasn't as long. It didn't take us too long.
yeah, I would say every time we were thinking like we got through the hardest part and the next phase seemed to be harder. But right now we feel like covering the walls up, and we have family that does cabinets, and I think maybe tile will be the next hardest part, is what we're anticipating, because neither of us have tiling experience, but
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Well, it's cool that you guys were able to kind of identify ahead of time some of the aspects that you guys just didn't want to touch and, get somebody else on those. And then being willing to tackle the other kind of aspects of it that you've never done before, but that you're just willing to dive in and felt confident with and whatnot. So that's cool. It's good to know when you need to phone a friend. So that's all.
for sure.
Yeah. Good
Thank you
stuff,
very
man. And that's always kind of seems the way that it goes is that building tiny homes, it just takes literally so many man hours, like 1,000 man hours literally to like get it done, and just like takes so much time, and people don't really kind of put the two and two together. And that's why tiny house builders, there's not a ton of margins in there, because it actually takes so much time per square foot compared to like a normal house. It takes so much time, and that's the benefit of being able to do it DIY, is you're saving a lot of money, a lot of time that you'd be paying somebody else to do it. So definitely
For sure.
helps a ton there, and it'll pay off in the end. So you guys are getting towards the finish line, and once you're pretty much done with the outside and you're just able to start wrapping up the inside, it starts feeling like a home on the inside, and you can actually really literally feel your home come together. So it's a lot of fun. But you guys, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh yeah, just one more
Good.
thing. Sorry, a question about the cost. When we got into it, our friends that built the same house that we bought the plans, they did it in 2017 or 18 for 35K. So we thought, yeah, that'll happen. But then COVID and the inflation. So we're probably at about 70K
into it right now.
Just cash, not including our
We have-
sweat equity.
I'd say presently we have almost everything as far as materials go.
Okay.
And we maybe a few odds and ends, but all the major stuff is here. So yeah, about
Ready to be
70.
installed. That
Mhm.
includes all the appliances.
But also
and-
Facebook, she's been working it, offer up different things like that, and then also turning around and selling stuff that we didn't use.
Yep.
Just kind of playing it both ways has been very helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's how the inflation's gone, probably about double with the cost of stuff.
Seriously. Well, thank you guys so much for being open about
Real
the
quick.
costs there.
Oh no, thank you. I was gonna say, local building store was about a quarter of the price on nails than it was buying it at Lowe's or Home Depot.
Okay.
They're gonna mark up way the price there. If you can find it at a local building supply, it's probably gonna be a lot better.
Yeah, all those little tips and tricks there help a ton, and like finding the right place to source your materials, you can save so much money there. But like you guys are saying, it literally just prices have just absolutely doubled. Because when we were building a lot of tiny homes back before COVID, we could get our trailers for about half the cost of what your guys' trailer costs, and that's literally just a straight cost. You can't do anything about that, no matter where you shop it. And actually, 10K for a trailer, it's not that bad nowadays. Like, a lot of people are spending a lot more than that. Some people spend literally double that on, bigger trailers and whatnot, but still double that price for a gooseneck and whatnot. Just so crazy how expensive it can get. So it's actually not too bad of a price there. And being able to kind of get the different materials that you're needing and get it all on site is pretty helpful to smooth the process along as well, but it obviously just takes time too. So
Yeah,
it does. And it's coming to a close. Thank you so much for all your help too.
absolutely, you guys. Well, yeah, really appreciate all the insights that you guys shared. It was super cool, and I'm glad you guys finished off with the tour as well, because that's always helpful and cool to get to see, especially like in the actual build process, because a lot of people just get to see, whether it's photos or whatever it is during the build process, and then just the after tour, the before and whatnot. So being able to actually see the tour live like this while it's in its build phase is pretty cool.
Thank you.
Awesome,
Thank-
you guys. Well, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch. And yeah, you guys will have to share your finished tiny home when you guys are done with it.
Up
Sure.
to, yep, anytime.
Awesome. All right. Well, take care, and we'll be in touch.
All right.